What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We're here in the RV. Jessica's over there cooking. The dogs are waiting patiently for food. And I'm finally trying, or not just trying, but not overwhelmed to the point where I can start doing, hopefully, regular updates, even though it's a little bit late and I've only got 2 more races to go before we get back to California and get kitted up to come back to Road America for the S.C.C.A. National Runoffs. So what's happened? Well, we started the trip off going to Hallett Motorsports Park. I've never driven a more challenging racetrack. That, and with the conditions out there, good God. We basically got just dumped on by God. The most water I've seen probably come down in my entire lifetime hit us while we were on track at Hallett. It delayed the day, or delayed the weekend. And beyond that, I also got away with my Scott McLaughlin moment. That's right. I spun out on the pace lap of the first race, mainly because, well, I'm not going to bore you with the details, but I definitely made my first real mistake as a driver in a long time, and thankfully I got that humbling experience out of the way early. Once we were done with Hallett Motor Racing Park, we scurried on up to Kansas City, Missouri. That's where Jessica's from. We got to enjoy paintballing in caves, we got to enjoy go-karting, we got to enjoy a couple of other wonderful things, but also the food and getting to meet her family. She's got a sister, brother-in-law, niece, her mother, and her aunt all still live up in the Kansas City area. We got to meet all them. Once we were kind of done in the Kansas City area, we skedaddled up to Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. There was a super tour there with a little bit of rain, but mostly dry. I felt really happy with how I performed and the car performed. We had, the bar was kind of set previously where, for those that know Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, there's the chicane and then there's running without the chicane, or what they might call the kink. So without the kink, the track record for a P1 or a prototype was, I believe, like a 19.4. With running the chicane or the kink, I ran a 1:20. I was really happy with my pace. I was really happy with that result, even though it wasn't track record status. It was still something that showed me that I'm fairly comfortable with how fast I'm going and the car seems to be performing. I just don't have a lot of benchmarks to judge myself off of, and so getting close to that in a different configuration made me feel really happy about where both myself and the car are at. Once we got done with Mid-Ohio, we got a few things out of the way. We stopped off at Riley's house. Riley helped me pour a new seat because up to that point I think the seat really wasn't working for me. We skedaddled off to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We got to see the Eddie Van Halen collection, which was pretty cool considering that's how I themed my car, along with all the other cool stuff that they have at the Rock and Roll Museum. There's a lot of wild paraphernalia there that's just rock and roll history. Once we got done with that, we started traveling back south. We stopped off at a secret location because it's tied to Jessica's employment, but we got to see some of the cool stuff she got to do in her employment and her job. Then once we were done with that, we started heading east, and that got us up to, well, we did the Air Force National Museum, which is, I believe, in Dayton, Ohio. That was an absolute blast. If you're any kind of airplane autism, it's an absolute stop. I've gone twice now. I take more pictures than any kind of tourist you can imagine. If there's any kind of stereotypes, it's just an absolute good time for anybody that enjoys engineering, flight, any of those things. It's unbelievable. Once we were done with that, we started beelining it straight to Elkhart Lake, or near Sheboygan, Wisconsin. That's where we had the June Sprints. The June Sprints is kind of one of the holy grails of S.C.C.A, and I can see why now. I've never done the June Sprints, and frankly, it was quite the event. Not only that, but before the June Sprints, Lee Alexander, who also runs a store, WF1, was kind enough to let me prep the car in his shop as well. Even though I had done some work in Riley's garage back in Ohio. Going from Ohio to Wisconsin, worst roads I've been on in my life. At the June Sprints, I wasn't running Avons anymore, started running Goodyears, so I swapped to Goodyears, had to start rolling with the setup as the weekend progressed, because it's definitely different. But first and foremost, by the time the race ended, I had placed 4th overall in the P category. Fast time was like a 2:02.7, and I ran a 2:03.6. First time at Road America in a store. First time really there in a long time. I'm really happy with that. I think I have a lot of potential when it comes down to the runoffs in October. So that's kind of changed the goal. The overall goal has shifted. And so what's happened since Road America? Well, another thing, on the cool down lap, I blew up my car. And I didn't just blow up my car, I blew up a certain part of it. So that's been a whole nother can of worms. You see, conveniently here by the door of the RV is a drive flange. This bolts to my differential. And before some of you are second guessing me, yes, I have checked this regularly. The actual drive flange was tight to the differential. Everything was working as it was supposed to. However, just the actual ears, the actual parts that bolt the sprocket on, are the parts that failed me. Now, this is an aluminum part. We found a replacement that's steel. That's gonna get me through the rest of the season. We'll figure out a true long-term solution a little bit later. But what happened is, unfortunately, that was a part I did not have. So I put out an APB to a lot of friends. I can't really tell you who I got it from because I'm not sure he's allowed to give it to me, but somebody provided me with a steel drive flange. That got me through, but we had to ship that somewhere. So after leaving Road America and the June sprints, we needed to buy ourselves time. So, well, first and foremost, we went to a Milwaukee Brewers game. That sounds a little silly to some of you, but the Brewers drafted my childhood friend, Logan Schaefer. Logan Schaefer played for the Brewers. I got to watch him play as a Brewer against the San Francisco Giants in, not Candlestick, whatever it is. Whatever the park is in San Francisco, I don't care. It's not Candlestick, it's lame. But I regret now not going and watching him play at Brewer Stadium. That is a spectacular ballpark, except for the fact that they sell squeaking chickens. Do not sell squeaking chickens before the 7th inning, especially to children, please. Milwaukee Brewers. But besides that, what an amazing experience. The experience was probably capped off by the fact that your parking staff were beyond the best I've ever encountered. I roll in there with an RV that's 35 feet long and a 25 foot long trailer behind me. And they kept pointing me in the right direction. They parked me right with the buses. And before I even get done parking, guy walks up like, "So what do you got in the back? A bike or a Harley?" "I'm gonna ride the Harley. She's gonna watch the dogs." We got our 2 dogs in here. So that instant section of just like safety for the dogs allowed me to have all the confidence of going and watching a ball game, getting a couple of Miller Lights, because obviously that's what you do when you're at a Brewers game. And from there, we got to watch the wiener races, which is like the cliche of going to a Brewers game. And even though they played poorly, what a timeout. Now, the dry flange was getting shipped to, well, I don't know if I'm allowed to say who to. Somebody at Goodyear made our life exceptionally easy. They got us a way to get the dry flange shipped ahead of our trajectory, and we decided to take a little bit of a break. We went to Cedar Point, the amusement park. They have an RV park there. We saddled up there for a few days and eventually got into the park. I thought I had ridden roller coasters before. That's an absolute lie. Cedar Point roller coasters and East Coast roller coasters hit a lot harder than the West Coast stuff I'm used to. That was an absolutely wild experience. That, and of course, the fact that it's an amusement park right on the lake. It's just mind-numbing. Once we got done there and picking up the dry flange, we continued to head, east? We saw Niagara Falls. We dropped into Berg Racing. Berg Racing allowed me to some space where I was able to install the drive flange, install the components, inspect the car prior to just showing up to Watkins Glen, where we're at now. Well, not technically at Watkins Glen. We're just about 20 minutes away. We're in an RV park in New York wine country off of Seneca Lake, in an RV park, surviving the heat, waiting for Watkins Glen that's going to be coming up this weekend. In fact, we're going to actually leave this RV park tomorrow and get in line so that we're first in, because unless anybody's noticed, we've got a little bit of a heat wave going on around the United States. So I am not going to miss out on a power outlet at Watkins Glen for the dogs and Jessica. Now, Watkins Glen is actually one of the few tracks I have truly never been to in my life. It's a really easy place to add blue paint to your car, and I don't want to do that. So hopefully this weekend goes well. I've got a little bit of an itinerary, or basically what's going to happen on what days. Take a look. Hopefully I'll be able to post a little bit more regularly as this season progresses for the next, 2 months, and then we'll get back into retrofitting and fixing the car to go to the S.C.C.A. National Runoffs. I'm sorry I wasn't able to do more of these videos. The goal will be from here to do hopefully daily updates, and then also try to take giant steps back, kind of get you up to date with how the race weekends went at Hallett, Mid-Ohio, the June sprints, as well as some of the wonderful stops we had along the way. I've really been having just such a good time, and there's been so much happening that I haven't been able to update you guys regularly. Please forgive me. But going forward, I do pledge regular videos. Promise. Alright everybody, that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being loyal, and I'm still so sorry I haven't been able to keep you guys all up to date. This has come at me a little bit quicker than I anticipated. Alright, good night for now. We'll see you tomorrow.